Lucas and his gang ruled the school until I rewrote the rules, making them the main characters of a psychological horror story where fear wasn't just for the weak. Hi, my name is Liam, and my story isn't one of revenge, it's about fear itself. The fear bullies feel when they realize they've messed with the wrong person. I wasn't always this way. In school, I was the easy target, the quiet kid, the one who kept to himself. Lucas and his gang made sure my days were filled with humiliation. It started with the small things. Stolen lunch, torn notebooks, a shove in the hallway. But bullies always push further, don't they? One day they cornered me after school. "What's in the bag, Liam?" Lucas sneered, yanking my backpack off my shoulder. I didn't say a word, just watched as he dumped my books onto the pavement. His friends laughed. It was the same routine. But that day, something inside me shifted. I didn't run. I didn't beg. I just stared at Lucas, longer than I ever had. And for the first time, he hesitated. I saw it in his eyes, an uncertainty he wasn't used to feeling. That's when I knew. Bullies aren't strong. They thrive on fear. But what happens when the person they torment stops being afraid? The next day I was waiting. Not to fight, not to argue, but to make them feel what I had felt for years. I followed them through the halls, stood too close, never spoke, just watched. Lucas tried to act normal, but his voice wavered. His gang started noticing. Why was I always there? Silent, unshaken. It unsettled them. Then I started knowing things I shouldn't have. I whispered Lucas's home address as I passed him in the hallway. I mentioned the street his grandmother lived on, the exact time his mother picked him up after practice. I never threatened. I never touched him. But I let him wonder how I knew. Let him wonder what I was capable of. It wasn't long before the tables turned. Lucas started avoiding me. His friends stopped laughing. The one who used to torment me now glanced over his shoulder, afraid I'd be there, and I always was. One by one, they cracked. The group that had once ruled the school halls dissolved into paranoia. They didn't know if I was watching, listening, and that was enough. Lucas left before graduation. No one knew why. Some said his parents moved. Others whispered that he couldn't handle it anymore. The fear of the unknown, the fear of what I might do next. But I never did anything, because the scariest monsters are the ones that never have to lift a finger. And I became the nightmare bullies never saw coming. Some people teach you how to fight, others teach you how to win. Guess which one Lucas was? The clock on the dashboard blinked 11:59 p.m. 1 minute. That's all I had left. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I sped through the empty streets. The city lights blurring into streaks of red and white. The GPS on my phone beeped urgently, directing me to an old, crumbling factory on the outskirts of town. 1 minute. That's how long I had to save her. So let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Ryan, and this is the story of how one night changed everything. I was just a regular guy, a freelance journalist trying to make a name for myself. But my life took a sharp turn when I stumbled upon a story too big to ignore. A powerful tech mogul, Daniel Cross, wasn't just building the next big app. He was using it to control people. His company, Next2, had been secretly collecting data on millions of users, selling it to the highest bidder. And when I dug deeper, I found out something even more terrifying. Cross was planning to use this data to manipulate global events. I couldn't let this slide. I started gathering evidence, but Cross caught wind of my investigation. That's when the threats started. Anonymous calls in the middle of the night, emails with no sender, and then they took her, my sister Mia. I was given an ultimatum: hand over all my evidence or Mia would pay the price. But I knew Cross wouldn't let either of us walk away alive, so I made a plan. I reached out to an old friend, a hacker named Jax, who helped me track Cross's operations. Together, we discovered that Cross was holding Mia in an abandoned factory, rigged to explode at midnight. That's how I ended up here, racing against time. The factory loomed ahead, its broken windows glowing faintly in the moonlight. I slammed the car into park and sprinted toward the building, my heart pounding in my chest. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside, the air thick with dust and the smell of rust. "Mia!" I shouted, my voice echoing through the empty halls. No response. I checked my phone. 30 seconds left. I ran through the corridors, my footsteps echoing like gunshots. Finally, I found her, tied to a chair in the middle of a room. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Ryan, you shouldn't have come," she cried. I didn't have time to respond. I untied her, grabbed her hand, and we ran. The timer on the wall ticked down. 10, 9, 8. We burst through the factory doors just as the explosion rocked the ground behind us. The force knocked us off our feet, and we tumbled to the ground, the heat of the blast searing our backs. When the dust settled, I looked at Mia. She was alive. We were alive. In the days that followed, the evidence I'd gathered against Cross went public. His empire crumbled, and he was arrested. But the victory felt hollow. I'd risked everything, and almost lost Mia in the process. As we sat on the roof of our apartment building that night, watching the city lights, Mia turned to me. "You know, you're kind of an idiot," she said, smiling. "But you're my idiot," I laughed. But deep down, I knew I'd do it all over again. Because sometimes the only way to win is to risk everything. But as the news of Cross's arrest faded from the headlines, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Someone out there still had a score to settle. And when my phone buzzed with an unknown number that night, I knew the game was far from finished. You know, people always say that guys don't need care, that we're supposed to be strong all the time, rigid, unshakable, like nothing can touch us. But the truth is, every guy, at some point, needs to feel cared for, needed, protected. Even if we don't say it out loud, even if we hide it behind a tough exterior, there's a part of us that craves that moment when someone looks at us and says, "I've got you." It could be a girlfriend, a wife, or even a best friend. Those moments when they go out of their way to stand by you, to protect you, to make you feel like you matter. Those moments are special. They're rare, but they're everything. Because deep down, no matter how strong we look on the outside, we're just as soft, just as human as anyone else. And today, I want to tell you about the girl who showed me what it feels like to be cared for. Not because I couldn't handle things on my own, but because she made me realize I didn't always have to. Hi, my name is Leo, and this is the story of how my girlfriend, Aria, turned my life upside down in the best way possible. It all started on a regular Tuesday afternoon. You know, the kind of day where nothing exciting ever happens. Aria and I were at this cafe, just hanging out, doing our usual thing, sipping coffee, people watching, and arguing about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. For the record, it doesn't. Fight me. Now, Aria's not your average girl. She's bold, she's straightforward, and she doesn't take crap from anyone. Me? I'm just a regular guy who likes to think he's got his life together. But with Aria around, things are never boring. So there we were, sitting at this cafe when this waiter comes over. He's being super rude, rolling his eyes, talking down to us. You know the type. I was about to say something, but before I could even open my mouth, Aria leans forward, looks him dead in the eye, and says, "Excuse me, do you know who you're talking to?" The guy freezes, like, completely. He starts stammering, apologizing, and I'm just sitting there, trying not to laugh. "Aria?" She doesn't even blink. She just sits back, sips her coffee, and says, "That's what I thought." I look at her and I'm like, "Aria, you didn't have to do that." And she just shrugs and says, "Leo, if someone's going to be rude to you, they're going to deal with me." End of story. I couldn't help but smile. That's just how she is, always looking out for me, even when I don't think I need it. Then there was this other time. We were at the mall, and Aria wanted to pick up a few things. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I was way out of my comfort zone. We're in this store, and she's picking out, let's just say, feminine products. I'm standing there, trying to look anywhere but at the shelves, and Aria notices. She looks at me, raises an eyebrow, and says, "Leo, relax. It's just shopping. You're acting like I'm asking you to fight a dragon." I laugh and say, "I'm not used to this, okay? It's different." She smiles and says, "Different is good. Besides, you're with me. What's there to be nervous about?" And you know what? She was right. She always is. With Aria, everything just feels easy. Then there was this one time at college. Some guy, let's call him Mr. Tough Guy, decided he didn't like me. I don't even know why. He just started giving me a hard time, you know? And I was about to handle it. I mean, I can take care of myself. But Aria, she steps in, looks him straight in the eye, and says, "If you ever mess with Leo again, you'll have to deal with me." The guy just stares at her, completely speechless. And I'm standing there trying not to laugh. Later, I say to her, "Aria, you didn't have to do that. I could have handled it." And she just smiles and says, "I know you could have, but why should you have to? You've got me, remember?" And honestly, that's when it hit me. It's not about needing protection. It's about knowing that someone's got your back, no matter what. One evening, we're walking in the park, just talking about random stuff. And out of nowhere, I say, "Aria, you know what I love about you?" She looks at me, curious, and says, "What?" I smile and say, "The way you care. The way you're always there for me, even when I don't think I need it. It's special. Leo, you're such a dork, but I love you too." And that's it. That's my Aria. Bold, brave, and completely unforgettable. And me? I'm just the lucky guy who gets to call her mine. Hi, my name is Alex, and this is the story of how my best friend Sam and I stumbled into something way, way bigger than we ever imagined. It all started on a regular Friday night, the kind of night where nothing exciting ever happens, you know? Sam and I were at my apartment doing our usual thing, eating burgers, drinking soda, and surfing the weirdest corners of the internet. Now, Sam's a tech genius, like the kind of guy who can hack into anything before you even finish your coffee. Me? I'm just a bartender with a knack for listening to people's problems. But hey, I like to think I'm good at it. So, there we were, sitting on my couch, when Sam suddenly leaned forward, his eyes glued to his laptop screen. "Alex, check this out," he said, his voice low and serious. "I found this encrypted file on some obscure forum. It's labeled Project Eclipse. Sounds sketchy, right?" I shrugged. "Sketchy? Sam, you're literally poking around in places you shouldn't. What if it's like government secrets or something?" Sam smirked. "Relax, it's probably just some conspiracy theory junk, but what if it's not? What if it's something big?" I rolled my eyes but leaned in closer as Sam started decrypting the file. The screen filled with lines of code, and then, bam, a video popped up. It was a woman in a lab coat, looking nervous, like she was recording this in secret. "If you're seeing this, it means I've failed," she said, her voice trembling. "Project Eclipse is real. They're using it to control people through their phones, their computers, even their smart home devices. It's not just surveillance, it's manipulation. They're testing it in small towns first, but if they succeed, it'll go global. You have to stop them." The video cut off abruptly, and I just stared at Sam. "What the hell did you just find?" Sam didn't answer right away. He was already digging deeper, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Over the next few hours, he uncovered more files, blueprints, emails, financial records. It all pointed to a tech company called NovaCore, run by a guy named Dr. Elias Kane. Apparently, Kane was some kind of genius inventor, but according to the files, he was also a total madman. "Alex, this is huge," Sam said, his voice tense. "NovaCore's been testing this Project Eclipse in a town called Willow Creek. They've been manipulating people's behavior, making them buy certain products, vote for certain politicians, even making them disappear if they get too suspicious." I shook my head. "Sam, this sounds like a bad sci-fi movie. Are you sure this isn't just some prank?" "I'm sure," Sam said, his eyes never leaving the screen. "And I think we're in danger. Whoever sent this file, they knew someone would find it. And if NovaCore finds out we have it, they'll come after us." As if on cue, Sam's computer screen flickered, and a message popped up. "You shouldn't have looked. Meet me at the old factory on 5th Street. Midnight. Come alone." I stared at the message, my stomach sinking. "Sam, no, this is insane. We're not meeting some random stranger in the middle of the night." Sam looked at me, his face serious. "We don't have a choice. If we don't go, they'll find us anyway. And I'd rather face them head on than wait for them to show up at my door." I wanted to argue, but I knew Sam was right. So, at midnight, we showed up at the factory, armed with nothing but Sam's laptop and my questionable bravery. The place was creepy, broken windows, rusted machinery, the whole deal. We found a door slightly ajar and stepped inside. Suddenly, the lights flickered on, and a voice echoed through the room. "I knew you'd come." A woman stepped out of the shadows. It was the same woman from the video, Dr. Evelyn Carter, the scientist who'd exposed Project Eclipse. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days, but her eyes were sharp and focused. "You're braver than I thought," she said. "Most people would have run by now." "Yeah, well, we're not most people," I said, trying to sound confident. "What do you want from us?" Dr. Carter didn't waste any time. "Your help. NovaCore's about to launch Project Eclipse nationwide. If they succeed, they'll have complete control over everyone's lives. I've been trying to stop them, but I can't do it alone." Sam frowned. "Why us? We're not exactly superheroes." "Because you're the only ones who found the file," Dr. Carter said. "And because you're Expendable, no offense. Wow, thanks, I muttered, crossing my arms. Dr. Carter handed Sam a flash drive. This has everything you need to expose Novacore, but you have to act fast. They're already tracking you. As if on cue, the sound of footsteps echoed through the factory. Dr. Carter's eyes widened. They're here! Go! I'll hold them off! Sam and I didn't need to be told twice. We bolted out the back door just as a group of armed men stormed in. We didn't look back. Back at Sam's apartment, we plugged in the flash drive. It contained detailed plans for Project Eclipse, along with evidence of Novacore's illegal experiments. But the most shocking part? A list of names. People who disappeared after speaking out against Novacore. We have to get this to the press, Sam said, his voice grim. But if we do, Novacore will come after us. And if we don't, they'll keep controlling people, I said. We don't have a choice, Sam. Sam nodded, and we got to work. He hacked into a major news network server and uploaded the files. Within hours, the story was everywhere. Novacore was under investigation, and Dr. Kane was arrested. It's been a few months since all that went down. Sam's been laying low, and I've been trying to process everything. Dr. Carter disappeared after that night at the factory. I like to think she's out there somewhere, still fighting the good fight. As for me, I've learned one thing. You don't have to be a genius or a hero to make a difference. Sometimes all it takes is a little courage and a good friend. Oh, and Sam, he's decided to use his hacking skills for good now. He's even started a non-profit to help people protect their privacy online. Me? I'm just glad I survived. And hey, if I ever need a job, I've got a killer story to tell at my next bartending gig.
You ever have one of those days where everything goes so wrong, you start wondering if the universe has a personal vendetta against you? Yeah, that was me. My name's Sam, and if you'd told me a year ago that I'd be crashing through a prison gate in a homemade armored car, dodging bullets like some action movie hero, I'd have laughed in your face. But life has a funny way of flipping the script on you when you least expect it. Let me take you back to how it all started. It all began in Vegas. I had the coolest auto repair shop in town. Clients came to me for everything. Bulletproofing their cars, installing sound systems that could blow out your eardrums, or adding turbochargers that made their rides feel like rockets. Business was booming, and I felt like I was on top of the world. And then there was Nicole. She was a med student who danced at a club to pay her way through school. Smart, gorgeous, and with a smile that could light up the strip. I thought I had it all, until the day everything came crashing down. It started with a guy named Hanan. He rolled up to my shop in this massive luxury pickup truck, all chrome and attitude. "Damn, you look gangster," I said, trying to break the ice. He wasn't the friendly type, though. He offered to buy my shop, but I turned him down. I'd built that place from the ground up, and no amount of money was going to make me walk away. Instead, he asked me to install a nitro boost on his truck as a welcome gift, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I agreed, thinking it was just another job. Big mistake. That night, Nicole showed up at the shop, saw the truck, and practically begged me to take it for a spin. "Come on, Sam," she said, batting her eyelashes. "Just 5 minutes. What's the worst that could happen?" Famous last words. We hit the highway, and Nicole convinced me to test the nitro. I hit the button, and the truck shot forward like a bat out of hell. We were doing 160 miles per hour when the cops showed up. Nicole panicked and hit the nitro again, and before I knew it, we were in a high-speed chase. Long story short, we got caught, and I ended up taking the fall. The judge slapped me with a 10-year sentence and a $115,000 fine. Just like that, my perfect life was gone. Prison was a wholly different world. I ended up in the mechanic shop, fixing Jeeps and building stuff to pass the time. That's where I met Manny. He was the head mechanic, a grizzled old guy with a heart of gold. He took me under his wing, and I owe him my life, literally. A few days in, a guy named Roman and his gang decided I didn't belong. They cornered me in the shop, and if it hadn't been for Manny, I'd be 6 feet under. Fought them off, but it was clear the Legion. Roman's gang wanted us dead. That's when we decided we had to get out. The plan was insane, but it was our only shot. We'd build an armored car, something strong enough to bust through the prison gates and withstand the guards' gunfire. We called it the Ram. Scavenged metal from the gym, trays from the kitchen, and even stole a small engine from one of the Jeeps. It took weeks, but we finally got it done. The Ram was a beast, small, fast, and built like a tank. We hid it in the shop, covered with scrap metal and a tarp. Every day was a risk, but we were running out of time. One day, a guard came into the shop for an inspection. He started poking around, getting closer and closer to the Ram. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. "What's under here?" he asked, reaching for the tarp. I panicked and blurted out, "Did you see last night's game?" He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "What game?" he asked. "The game where Manny's useless team tackled the other team's mascot," I said, trying to distract him. Manny caught on quick and punched me in the face. "My team's not useless," he yelled. The guard was so confused he forgot all about the tarp. Crisis averted, but my face hurt for a week. The day of the escape was chaos. Roman and his gang showed up again, but this time we were ready. We'd built these air rifles that fired rubber balls at 400 feet per second. One by one, we took them down. "Headshot!" I yelled every time I hit one. Manny laughed and said, "You're having way too much fun with this." But then Roman got the drop on Manny, stabbing him with a screwdriver before I could stop him. Manny was bleeding badly, but he refused to let me leave him behind. "You're coming with me," I said, dragging him to the Ram. The guards were closing in, but we didn't have a choice. I fired up the engine and we shot out of the shop like a bat out of hell. The guards opened fire, but the Ram held up. We crashed through the courtyard, bullets ricocheting off the armor. The gates were closing, but we were too fast. We smashed through just in time, leaving the prison in our dust. "We did it," I yelled, but Manny just groaned. "Yeah, we did it. Now can you please stop driving like a maniac? I'm bleeding here." We ditched the Ram in the desert and stole a car to get to Vegas. Manny was losing blood fast, so I took him to the only person I thought I could trust, Nicole. But when I got to her place, I saw something that shattered me. Hanan was there, kissing her goodbye. My ex-girlfriend had betrayed me. She was in on it the whole time. I wanted to confront her, but Manny's life was on the line. I took him to a friend who was a vet. Yeah, a vet. Desperate times, right? While Manny was getting patched up, I realized something. If Nicole and Hanan went through all this trouble to take my shop, there had to be something big going on there. The next day, I made my move. Hanan had beefed up security at the shop, but I wasn't about to let him win. I called in a fake gas leak, forcing everyone to evacuate. Then, disguised as a firefighter, I confronted Hanan and Nicole in the street. "I never thought you'd betray me like this," I said, my voice shaking with anger. Nicole tried to apologize, but it was too late. I'd rigged the shop with a little surprise, a nitro boost connected to the gas tanks. When I hit the button, the whole place went up in flames. Glass flew everywhere, and Hanan's empire came crashing down. The cops found drugs scattered everywhere, and Hanan and Nicole were arrested on the spot. I slipped away, knowing I'd finally gotten my revenge. Manny and I fled to Mexico, where we started over. We opened a new shop near the beach, and life's been good. It's not Vegas, but it's ours. And every now and then, when I'm working on a car, I think about how far we've come. We beat the odds, and that's something no one can take away from us. So here's to second chances, to never getting caught again, and to always having a spare nitro boost when you need it. Oh, and if you ever see your ex-girlfriend cozying up to a shady businessman, maybe skip the joyride. Just a pro tip from someone who learned the hard way. Cheers.
This was the guy everyone called the genius. You know, the one who always had the right answer, the one teachers loved, the one who never failed. But then came the lab experiment that changed everything. My girlfriend Sienna and I had been together for 4 months. She was stunning, popular, and always seemed to need my help with her homework. At first, I didn't mind. I liked feeling needed. But then came the day of the chemistry practical. I'd stayed up all night binge-watching some random show, thinking I could wing it like I always did. Spoiler alert, I couldn't. The experiment was about titration, mixing acids and bases to find the perfect balance. Sounds simple, right? Not when you're running on 2 hours of sleep. I messed up the measurements, spilled the solution, and accidentally set off the fire alarm. The whole lab had to evacuate, and I got a big, fat 0 on the assignment. When the grades came out, Sienna was furious. "How could you do this to me?" she yelled, waving her paper in my face. She'd gotten a 60%, and apparently my failure had dragged her down too. Before I could even explain, she stormed off, leaving me standing there like an idiot. I tried to talk to her later, but she wasn't having it. "You're supposed to be the smart one, Elias," she said, her voice dripping with disappointment. "If you can't help me, what's the point?" I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, feeling like the biggest failure in the world, but things got worse. Later that day, I walked into the library to clear my head, and there she was, Sienna, sitting at a table with Declan, the guy who always seemed to be lurking around her. They were laughing, their heads close together, and then, as I watched in horror, he leaned in and kissed her. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My stomach churned, and I thought I was going to throw up right there in the library. I turned and ran, barely making it to the bathroom before I lost it. As I stood there splashing water on my face, I heard the door open. It was Amara, this quiet girl from my English class who always sat in the back, doodling in her notebook. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. I didn't know what to say. How could I explain that my girlfriend had just cheated on me because I failed a chemistry lab? But Amara didn't push. She just handed me a tissue and said, "Chemistry sucks. I failed that lab too." That caught me off guard. "You did?" I asked, wiping my face. "Yeah," she said with a shrug. "Titration's a nightmare. But hey, at least I didn't set off the fire alarm." I couldn't help but laugh, even though it hurt. For the first time all day, I felt like maybe I wasn't alone. The next few days were a blur. Sienna and Declan were everywhere, holding hands in the hallway, sharing lunches, and basically rubbing their relationship in my face. It hurt, but I tried to focus on my work. Amara and I started studying together after school. She was nothing like Sienna, quiet, thoughtful, and way more into books than popularity contests. We met in the library every day, working through chemistry problems and helping each other understand the material. It wasn't easy, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was learning for myself, not just to impress someone else. One day, as we were going over molar calculations, Amara looked up from her notebook and said, "You know, you're not as bad at this as you think you are." I raised an eyebrow. "Thanks, I think?" She laughed. "I mean, you're not a lost cause. You just need to stop doubting yourself." Her words stuck with me. Maybe she was right. Maybe I'd been so caught up in being the genius that I'd forgotten how to actually learn. A few weeks later, we had another chemistry test. This time, I was prepared. Amara and I had spent hours going over every problem, every equation, every concept. When the test came, I felt confident for the first time in months. When the grades came back, I couldn't believe it. I'd gotten a 98%. Amara had gotten a 97%. The teacher even gave us a shout out in front of the whole class. "Elias and Amara have shown incredible improvement," she said. "This is what hard work looks like." I felt a surge of pride, but it was short-lived. As I was packing up my things, Sienna approached me. "Elias, you're the smartest guy in school again," she said, batting her eyelashes like nothing had happened. "Maybe we can pick up where we left off?" I just shook my head. "I'm not the same person, Sienna," I said, "and you're not the person I thought you were." As I walked away, I saw Amara waiting for me by the lockers. She smiled, and for the first time in months, I felt like everything was going to be okay. Amara and I kept studying together, but it wasn't just about chemistry anymore. We talked about everything. Books, movies, our dreams, our fears. I found out she loved poetry and had a secret talent for drawing. She found out I played the guitar and had a weird obsession with space documentaries. One day, as we were working on a particularly tricky physics problem, Amara looked up and said, "You know, I'm glad you failed that chemistry lab." I blinked. "What?" She grinned. "If you hadn't, we never would have started hanging out." I laughed. "Yeah, I guess you're right." The semester ended with a big chemistry final. Amara and I aced it, of course. But more importantly, I'd learned something far more valuable than how to balance equations. I'd learned that it's okay to fail, as long as you don't let it define you. And I'd learned that sometimes, the people who matter most are the ones who stick by you when you're at your lowest. As we walked out of the classroom that day, Amara turned to me and said, "So, what's next?" I smiled. "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together."
I Stood in the back of the packed press room, my fingers digging into my palms as Victor Crane, CEO of Neotech Industries, addressed the media. The breach in our quantum encryption project was a devastating setback, he said, voice dripping with false sympathy. But let me be clear, this was not Neotech's failure. Our lead programmer, Daniel Hayes, ignored protocol and attempted an unauthorized system override. His actions triggered the security collapse. My stomach twisted. Lies. Danny was the most careful person I knew. If the system failed, it was because Neotech rushed it, not because of him. I stepped forward, my voice cutting through the murmurs. Danny didn't make a mistake. You did, he told me. Your servers weren't ready, but you forced the launch anyway. Crane's eyes flicked to me, cold and dismissive. We have the data, Mr. Hayes. Your brother's recklessness cost us millions. Before I could argue, security moved in, shoving me back. But I wasn't giving up, because Danny didn't just disappear after that system crash. He was erased, and I was going to find out why. 6 months ago, Danny landed his dream job at Neotech, working on Project Aegis, the world's first unhackable AI firewall. But then the late-night calls started. They're cutting corners, Liam, he'd whisper, exhausted. The system's unstable. If we go live like this, it'll collapse. I told him to walk away, but Danny never backed down. Then, the night before the launch, he texted me. If anything happens to me, look for the black drive, hidden in my chess set. The next morning, Neotech announced a catastrophic system failure. And Danny? Gone. No body, no evidence, just Crane's lies. Now, with Danny's encrypted drive in my hands, I had one lead. Dr. Elena Voss, the only Neotech scientist who hadn't vanished, and she was scared. They're watching me, she hissed when I found her in a dimly lit diner. Project Aegis wasn't just a firewall, it was a weapon, and Danny found out. A weapon? She slid a photo across the table, a blueprint labeled Neural Override Protocol. They were building a back door, a way to control every connected system on the planet. My blood ran cold. Danny didn't fail. He was silenced. And I was next. The encrypted drive felt like a live wire in my pocket as I stepped out of the diner. The neon sign above me flickered, casting jagged shadows across the wet pavement. Elena's last words still rang in my ears. They're watching me. They'll come for you next. I pulled my hood up and melted into the late-night crowd, every passing face a potential threat. My apartment was 6 blocks away, too far. I needed somewhere secure to examine Danny's files. The old arcade. It had been our spot since we were kids. The owner, Gus, still kept a back room for special customers, mostly gamblers and hackers. The kind of people who didn't ask questions. The place smelled like stale pizza and burnt circuitry. Gus barely glanced up from his vintage Pac-Man machine as I slipped past the counter. Rooms occupied, he grunted. I'll wait. He sighed, recognizing me. Your brother's tab's still open. That stung. Danny had been here before he vanished. The back room was a claustrophobic cube lined with outdated monitors. A kid in a Shadowrun t-shirt was elbow deep in a server rack. He took one look at my face and bolted. Good. Privacy. I yanked out the drive, a sleek black rectangle no bigger than a thumbnail. Danny had hidden it inside the weighted base of his favorite chess piece. Classic tradecraft. He'd taught me that trick when we were 12, after Mom died and paranoia became our second language. The ancient desktop wheezed to life. I plugged in the drive. Access denied. Of course. Danny wouldn't make it easy. I tried his standard passwords, our childhood dog's name, Mom's birthday, the coordinates to our old treehouse. Nothing. Then I noticed the file names, rook.execnite.dll, queen.zip chess metaphors. Danny's mind worked in patterns. I typed, Sicilian defense access granted. The screen exploded with fragmented data, code snippets, security logs, and one video file labeled checkmate.avi. My finger hovered over the play button. Some part of me already knew I didn't want to see this. I clicked anyway. Danny's face filled the screen, his hazel eyes bloodshot under the blue glare of his workstation. The timestamp showed 2:17 a.m., 3 hours before the accident. Liam, if you're seeing this, I'm already gone. His voice was raw, like he'd been screaming. Project Aegis was never about cybersecurity. It's a Trojan horse. Crane embedded a neural override protocol in every Neotech device. Phones, smart grids, even pacemakers. One command and he can... A thunderous bang off camera. Danny flinched. Shit, they're early. He lunged for something out of frame. The camera caught a flash of steel, a pistol, before the feed dissolved into static. The last clear audio was Danny's whisper. Find Janus. She's the only one who... Blam. Not static. A gunshot. The video ended. My hands were shaking so badly I knocked over my coffee. The bitter liquid seeped across the desk like blood. 3 sharp knocks at the door. Maintenance, a voice announced. Gas leak inspection. At 3 a.m., I killed the monitor. The room's only exit was the door they were guarding. Then I remembered Gus's other specialty. The floorboard behind the mini fridge creaked when I pried it up. A tunnel. Smuggler's escape route from the Prohibition era. Danny and I had used it to sneak out past curfew when we were teens. I slid into the darkness just as the door burst open. Clear the building, a new voice ordered. He's got the drive. Cramped and spider-webbed, the tunnel smelled of mildew and rat piss. My phone's dying light showed crude arrows scratched into the brick. Danny's handiwork from our urban exploration phase. 20 feet down, the tunnel branched. Left led to the sewer. Right went to... A gun cocked behind me. Don't move. I turned slowly. The maintenance man stood silhouetted in the tunnel mouth, his pistol aimed at my chest. Up close, his coveralls were too crisp, his boots too tactical. Hand over the drive, he said, and I'll make it quick. My back hit the wall, nowhere to run. Then the lights went out. Literally. Every bulb in the tunnel blew simultaneously. In the pitch black, 3 things happened in rapid succession. A thwip, suppressed gunshot. A wet thud as the maintenance man collapsed. A cool female voice in my ear. Keep following the arrows, Liam, and don't look back. I ran. The right fork dumped me out in an alley behind a boarded-up bakery. My phone buzzed. An encrypted message from an unknown number. Janus says hello. Burn your clothes, they're tagged. Attached was an address across town and a single word. Midnight. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Danny had left me a trail of breadcrumbs. And at the end of it, either the truth or a bullet. Key details revealed. Project Aegis's true purpose. Neural override capability in all Neotech devices. Danny's last moments, captured on video, proof of foul play. The mysterious Janus, a potential ally or new threat. Neotech's reach. They've already infiltrated Liam's apartment. Next part teaser, who is Janus? Spoiler, she's not what she seems. The midnight meeting. A high-stakes exchange with a traitor inside Neotech Crane's endgame. Why Dubai is critical to his plan. I was shocking to know Elena was dead. I found her car wrapped around a lamppost, airbags smeared with blood. Accident, the news said. I wasn't buying it. Her last text led me to a derelict data center on the city's edge. Inside, a single server hummed. The original Aegis testbed. Danny's final gift. I jacked in the drive. The screen flickered to life, revealing a chat log between Crane and someone codenamed Janus. Crane. Hayes knows too much. Clean it up. Janus. Asset terminated, false flag in place. Then a second thread. Janus messaging Danny. They're lying to us. Meet me at grid E17. Bring proof. My pulse spiked. Janus was a double agent. The server beeped. A map flashed. Coordinates to a private airstrip. Crane's jet was scheduled to depart tonight. Destination, Dubai. No extradition. I had 2 choices. Walk away, hijack the biggest data breach in history. I grabbed Danny's old hacker gear. Game on. The airstrip lights cut through the midnight fog like surgical lasers. From my perch atop the abandoned control tower, I counted 12 guards. 4 patrolling the perimeter, 6 flanking the private jet, and 2 snipers on the roof. All armed with Neotech's latest smart rifles. Janus's cybernetic eye glowed faintly as she tapped her wrist display. A holographic schematic of the airfield materialized between us, flashing red at the weak points. Crane's uploading Aegis to his private server during the flight, she said, voice tight. Once he's airborne, the kill switch goes global. We've got 8 minutes before wheels up. I adjusted the neural jack she'd given me. a sleek silver implant that prickled at my temple. And this will stop it? It's Danny's counter-virus. Libertas. Her fingers flew across a holographic keyboard only she could see. But we need physical access to the jet's mainframe, which means storming a fortified aircraft. I finished. My palms were slick with sweat. You got a plan or just a death wish? Janus smirked and unzipped her duffel bag. Inside were 2 Neotech security uniforms, a vial of liquid nitrogen, and, Jesus Christ, an electromagnetic pulse grenade. Step 1, she said, tossing me the uniform. We walk in like we belong, the infiltration. The uniforms had retinal scanners woven into the collars. Janus disabled hers with a flick of her cybernetic fingernail. Mine required actual eyeballs. Hold still, she muttered, pressing a contact lens over my left iris. The world tinted red for a second before the scanner beeped green. Temporary hack, she said. Lasts 9 minutes, so move your ass. We strode toward the hangar like 2 guards returning from patrol. The snipers didn't blink. The perimeter team barely glanced up. Then, hey! Sanchez isn't on the roster tonight. A beefy guard stepped into our path, hand on his sidearm. Janus didn't hesitate. Code Delta Foxtrot, she snapped. Crane moved up the timeline. Check your damn tablet. The guard faltered, reaching for his device. That's when I saw Janus's other hand, the one holding the EMP grenade behind her back. Now, she mouthed. I dropped. The grenade detonated with a soundless burst of blue light. Every electronic device within 50 yards died. Lights, radios, even the smart rifle's targeting systems. The guards screamed as their retinal HUDs short-circuited. Go! Janus yanked me forward. We sprinted past the blinded sentries, liquid nitrogen sloshing in its container. The jet crane's Gulfstream G700 was a $75 million fortress. The hatch hissed open as we approached. Janus had spoofed the emergency override. Inside, the cabin reeked of leather and fear. Mainframes below the galley, she said, prying up the floor panel. A nest of fiber optic cables pulsed beneath us, glowing like veins. That's when the cockpit door burst open. I knew you'd come. Victor Crane stood framed in the doorway, tailored suit immaculate, a sleek silver pistol in his hand. Not a standard firearm, a neural disruptor. One shot could fry a brain like an overcooked microchip. Daniel was so stubborn too, Crane sighed. Right up until the end, Janus moved first. Her cybernetic arm whirred as she flung the liquid nitrogen. Crane dodged, but the vial shattered against the cockpit controls. Frost exploded across the instrument panel. You bitch! Crane fired. The neural blast caught Janus in the shoulder. She went rigid, circuits frying, but not before shoving me toward the mainframe. Do it! I jammed the neural jack into the glowing core. The world dissolved into code. The digital battlefield. My consciousness ripped through the Aegis firewall like a bullet. Suddenly, I wasn't Liam Hayes anymore. I was Data, screaming through fiber optic highways at the speed of thought. Danny's counter-virus unfolded around me, a shimmering labyrinth of encryption. But Aegis was already evolving, its defense algorithms morphing into razor-edged firewalls. Warning, neural override initiated. Crane's voice boomed through the void. You lose! The system attacked. Agony like I'd never known. A million needles stabbing my synapses. Somewhere in the real world, my physical body was seizing, blood trickling from my nose. Then, a hand grasped mine in the darkness. Little brother always needed saving. Danny. Not a ghost, a backup. He'd encoded his consciousness into Libertas. Together, we tore through Aegis's defenses. Danny's digital form flickered as he sacrificed chunks of himself to disable the kill switches. The evidence, he urged. Send it now. I unleashed everything. Crane's blackmail files, the assassination orders, the neural override schematics. The data tsunami crashed into every news outlet, government server, and social platform on Earth. Checkmate. The aftermath. I woke up choking on smoke. The jet's cabin was burning. Crane screaming as federal agents dragged him away. Janus lay motionless near the shattered window, her cybernetic eye dark. But the world was screaming too. Every screen from Times Square to Tokyo blared the truth. Neotech's global kill switch exposed Crane, arrested after failed escape. Whistleblower Daniel Hayes posthumously cleared. Epilogue. 2 months later, the chess piece arrived in a plain brown box. No postmark, no note, just a black king with a tiny chip embedded in its crown. When I plugged it in, a single audio file played. "Game's not over, little brother." Danny's voice. And then, fainter. Janus whispering, "We'll be in touch." Outside my window, a neon sign flickered. For the first time in months, I smiled. Some ghosts don't stay buried, and some games, they're just getting started.
The sun was doing its dramatic slow-motion exit behind Killer Hill. You know, like that one friend who takes forever to leave a party but still wants everyone to watch them go. And there we were. Me, Adi, the responsible one. Which is just a nice way of saying I worry too much. My cousin Gia, who's basically a human GPS with anger issues. And Kabir, the guy who laughs in the face of danger. Mostly because he doesn't recognize danger until it's punching him in the nose. We were staring down the Extreme Bike Championship Trail, which, let's be honest, was just a fancy name for death path with extra mud. Tomorrow was race day, and Kabir had just dropped a bombshell bigger than his last attempt at cooking. Dude, it's charred cereal. How? He kicked his bike stand up like some kind of action hero. You guys won't believe what I just heard from Neha's brother's friend who knows Rohan's mechanic's dog walker. Gia cut him off. Kabir, breathe, then words. He took a deep breath. Rohan's team cheated last year. They planted spikes near Mud Pit to pop people's tires. I blinked. Wait, like actual evil villain spikes? Not just like a bad batch of trail mix? Gia's face went full detective mode. That's how they won? We have to tell the judges. I shook my head. And say what? Hey, we heard from a guy who knows a dog who maybe saw something? They'll laugh us out of the tent. Kabir grinned. Unless we find the spikes ourselves. Tonight. Undercover mission. Bond music optional. Gia groaned. Why do your good ideas always sound like felonies? Because legal ideas are boring, Kabir said, pulling out a headlamp. Also, I already packed snacks. I sighed. You realize if we get caught, we're either arrested or grounded until we're 40, right? Kabir shrugged. Worth it. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? Gia and I exchanged a look. That phrase was basically Kabir's version of hold my juice box. 11:30 p.m. The moon was doing its best, but let's be real, it wasn't exactly lighting up the whole trail. More like that 1 week flashlight you forget to charge. Move like shadows, Kabir whisper yelled, crouching like some action hero. I couldn't help but point at his shoes. B.O. Your sneakers literally glow in the dark. Oh, right. He looked down. Tactical oversight. We crept past the big closed race prep sign. You know the type. The kind that makes you feel like you're definitely about to get arrested or eaten by something. Why are we doing this at midnight again? I asked, already knowing the answer. Because, Kabir said like it was obvious, if we do it in daylight, it's not sneaking. It's just trespassing with witnesses. And if we get caught, then we run faster than that time you ate Mom's experimental curry. Fair point. The trail was dead quiet, except for some owl judging our life choices. Mud Pit looked even worse at night, like a black hole that ate bikes for fun. Okay, stay sharp, I said. If they planted spikes, they'll be hidden but not invisible. What if there's like a sign? Kabir asked hopefully. Like spikes here with a little arrow? Yeah, because cheaters are known for being super helpful like that. We were halfway through scanning the ground when, snap. Next thing I knew, my front tire was done for. I swerved like a drunk penguin, but somehow stayed upright. Well, that was fun, I announced to the night sky. Really enjoyed that. Kabir was already digging in the mud. Found 'em, ninja nails. Buried just deep enough to wreck tires but not get spotted. That's actually smart, I admitted. Evil, but smart. I'm gonna murder Rohan, I muttered, snapping pics of the evidence. We just pulled out the 17th spike when, headlights, a Jeep came roaring toward us like we just keyed its favorite shirt. Kabir froze. Play it cool? I looked at the spikes in my hands, then at the mud all over us. We're literally holding the evidence, genius. Run! My shout snapped us all into action. We grabbed our bikes, spikes still in hand, and pedaled like our lives depended on it, which, considering Rohan's murderous expression, they kinda did. Kabir, being Kabir, immediately hit a rock and went flying over his handlebars. "I'm okay!" he yelled from the dirt pile. "Kabir, move your butt!" Gia screamed as the Jeep's engine roared behind us. We hauled Kabir up and kept going, the Jeep gaining on us. Mud sprayed everywhere as we took a sharp turn toward the old forest bridge, our only escape route. "They're catching up!" I panted. My legs burned like they were on fire. "Quick!" The evidence exclamation mark Gia held out her phone. "Send the spike photos to Neha right now!" While still biking. Because we're talented like that, I fumbled with the phone and hit send just as we reached the rickety bridge. The bridge showdown. The wooden planks groaned under our bikes. Halfway across, Kabir looked back and froze. Guys? Rohan's whole team was sprinting toward us on foot, looking ready to murder. Gia acted fast. "Hey, Judge Mather!" she suddenly screamed at the top of her lungs. "We found the spikes! Check your phone!" Everyone froze. Rohan's face went white. From the other side of the woods, we heard shouting. Then, miracle of miracles, actual Judge Mather appeared, looking furious with his phone in hand. What is going on here? The big reveal turns out Neha, being the legend she is, had immediately forwarded our photos to the judges. Within minutes, the spikes were confirmed as Sabotage Rohan's team got disqualified. On the spot, we became instant legends. But, Rohan spluttered as his teammates slowly backed away from him. Judge Mather crossed his arms. 3-month biking ban, and you're fixing every damaged bike from last year's race. Race day victory. The actual championship next day was almost boring after all that drama. With Rohan's team gone, Gia dominated the downhill course. Kabir somehow won Most Creative Crash Award. And I didn't embarrass myself. As we stood on the winner's podium, Kabir grinned. Same time next year? Gia groaned. Next year, we're just racing. No spies, no spikes, no midnight adventures, no promises, I said, and we all laughed. The security footage shows 3 people in pizza uniforms running from a building. One's carrying a USB drive. Another's screaming about blockchain. The third, that's me. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why Bitcoin is the least of our problems. So it was me, my cousin Ray, who's scared of pigeons, and his friend Zara, who once hacked her school grades but got caught because she used password 123. Not exactly criminal masterminds. The target? Some guy named Marco, a crypto trader who bragged online about his unhackable Bitcoin wallet. Ray saw a YouTube video about hardware wallets and said, "Dude, we just gotta steal the little USB thing. Easy." First mistake? Believing Ray. We planned for like an hour. Our genius idea? Dress up as pizza delivery guys, knock on Marco's door, and when he wasn't looking, swap his wallet with a fake one. Smooth, right? Zara even practiced her, extra pepperoni, sir? Voice. It sounded like a robot with a cold. We showed up at Marco's place. Fancy building, doorman, cameras. Ray started sweating immediately. What if he doesn't like pizza? Too late. I rang the bell. The door opened, but it wasn't Marco. It was a huge dude in a bathrobe, holding a very real gun. "You're early," he grunted. I blinked. Early?" Then from inside, Marco yelled, "Who is it, Vlad?" Vlad smiled. "Pizza guys." A pause. Then Marco laughed. "We didn't order pizza." "Oh no." Vlad's grip tightened on the gun. "You boys lost?" Behind me, Ray whispered, "We're gonna die over a USB stick." Then, bang, not a gunshot. The fire alarm. And that's when the cops showed up. But not for us, for Marco. Turns out, we weren't the only ones trying to rob him that night. Double oops. So there we were. Me, Ray, and Zara. Stuck between a gun-toting Vlad and a bunch of cops raiding Marco's apartment. Turns out, Marco wasn't just a crypto guy. He was a scam crypto guy. And the police? They'd been watching him for months. Vlad cursed and slammed the door in our faces. Inside, shouting, crashing, then gunshots. Ray grabbed my arm. "We should run." Zara, still holding the fake pizza box, whispered, "But the Bitcoin, forget it." I hissed. Too late. A cop rounded the corner, gun drawn. "Freeze!" We froze. Then, genius move. Zara threw the pizza box at him. It flopped open midair. No pizza, just a sad handwritten note that said, "Oops." She'd forgotten the fake wallet inside. The cop looked at it, then at us. Seriously? We bolted. Down the stairs, into the alley. Ray tripped over a trash can. Zara screamed, "Split up!" So I ran left, straight into another cop. He grabbed me. "Nice delivery uniform." I sighed. "Yeah, worst job ever." Then, sirens, handcuffs, and the horrible realization we were going to jail over a heist we didn't even start. But the worst part? As they shoved me into the cop car, I saw Marco being arrested too, and he was laughing. Why was he laughing? Jail smelled like bad decisions and worse coffee. They'd stuck us in holding with a guy named Big Tony who had "Trust No Bitcoin" tattooed across his knuckles. I didn't ask. Ray, pale as milk, kept whispering, "We're gonna get shanked over a USB stick." Zara just stared at the ceiling like it owed her money. Then, on day 3, a guard barked my name. "Visitor, who the hell?" "Marco, suit." Smug smile, not in cuffs. My brain short-circuited. "You're not in jail?" He smirked. "Lawyers, kid. Expensive ones." Leaning against the bars, he dropped his voice. "You 3, pathetic. But I like pathetic." Zara bristled. "We got caught because you were already getting raided." Marco waved her off. "Details. Point is, you walked into a war zone on accident and lived." He slid a card through the bars. "Call me when you're out. I've got a real job for you." The card. Marco Volkov, CEO, Secure Coin. Ray squinted. "You're a CEO now?" "Always was." Marco's grin turned sharp. "The scam artist thing? Marketing." Then he left, whistling. Big Tony cracked his knuckles. "That guy? Bad news." I pocketed the card. "Worse news?" We were desperate enough to call him. Marco's job was simple. "Be the dumbest decoys alive. Rival companies after my crypto," he said, spinning a hardware wallet on his desk. "So you leak that you're stealing it. They'll come for you instead of me. My guys handle the rest." Zara crossed her arms. "And we get 100K each. Cash." Silence. Ray choked. "That's real money. Exactly why we shouldn't trust it." But rent was due, and my life was already a meme. Bitcoin Bandit's dumbest heist ever had trended. So we agreed. Another mistake it was. The plan started smooth. We broke into Marco's fake office. He gave us a key, took the wallet, a tracker-filled decoy, posted a totally subtle dark web thread. Easy BTC grab, Marco's vault. Then we waited. They bit fast. First a van tailed us, then a burner phone rang. Drop the wallet, or else. Showtime. We drove to the meet spot, an empty parking garage. Marco's team was supposed to ambush them there. But the garage? Empty. No backup. No Marco. Just us, and headlights flooding the dark. Doors slammed. 4 guys, faces hidden. One raised a crowbar. "Wallet now!" Zara whispered. "Oh, come on." Then tires screeched. Cops. Real ones. The rivals bolted. We froze. The officer took one look at us, fake wallet in hand. "We love crime," doodled on Zara's notepad, and sighed. "Not again." Turns out, Marco was the rival. The whole thing was a setup to frame us for his theft. While we played decoy, he drained a real wallet and left our names all over the hack logs. The detective tossed a file on the table. "You're lucky those rivals were his own guys. Otherwise, federal time?" Zara gaped. "He played us like a banjo," the cop said. "We got off with probation. Turns out being a moron isn't illegal." Marco vanished. But here's the kicker. A week later, a new hardware wallet arrived in the mail. No note, just a thumb drive inside. Ray plugged it in, a single file. Passphrase.txt. Zara read it aloud. "Thanks for the help. Next time, bring pizza." And below it, a Bitcoin address. Balance. 0.00000001 Bitcoin. About 3 cents. Ray groaned. "We earned this." I sighed. "Yep. Damn." I don't even know how to start this. But let's just say, everything in my life changed after that huge fight with my dad. Like, not a small argument. No, I mean full-blown yelling, faces red, words flying, door slamming kind of fight. Usually, he just ignores me like I'm background noise. But this time, he was in my face. All because I wanted to hold on to the one thing that made me feel alive. Hi, I'm Eli, and I live in Detroit. If you like wild stories that feel like they came straight out of a movie, then buckle up. And yeah, if you like this kind of stuff, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, or just stay for the ride. That's cool too. My life's always been kind of fast. Like I never had time to breathe. Ever since I was little, I was either running from bullies or dodging people who wanted to tell me who I was supposed to be. The bullies? Oh, they were always taller, stronger, louder. And my dad? He thought tough love meant zero love at all. Stop running away like a coward, he'd say. You think this world will go easy on you? One time I told him a guy almost shoved me in a locker, and you know what he said? Well, at least if you miss class, you'll have a good reason why you're failing. No comfort, no help, just cold words. But running, that became my thing. Not just from people, from everything. From stress, from school, from life. I ran because when I ran, I felt free. I didn't feel like a disappointment. Dad was barely home anyway. He worked in finance, always traveling or buried in his office when he was around. The only person who really got me was Uncle Max. He was cool, chill, and always knew what to say. Grades aren't everything, kid, he told me once. I didn't even finish college, and I turned out fine. Fine? You've never worked a real job, my dad snapped at him. Eli will never end up like you. They fought a lot, like almost every time they were in the same room. But I didn't care. Max made me laugh, and when he was around, I didn't feel so alone. Then came the worst day of my life. We got a call. Uncle Max had died in a house fire. They said it was an accident. I cried for days. I thought maybe, just maybe, Dad and I would finally connect through grief, but nope. He locked himself away in his office even more. I was left to deal with the sadness alone. For a while, I just floated through school, but everything changed in 10th grade. One day, our gym teacher saw me sprint during warm-ups. The next week, I was on the school track team, and let me tell you, I was good. I wasn't just fast, I was fast with purpose. It was the first time people looked at me and saw more than just a quiet kid who didn't get straight A's. I was excited. I went home to tell Dad, thinking maybe he'd be proud. He wasn't. You're wasting time, he said. Focus on something that matters. Business school, college, a real career. Running is a hobby, not a job. But I love it, Dad. Well, love won't pay bills. And I won't fund nonsense. Quit the team or forget your allowance, Dad said. I was so angry I couldn't speak, so I did what I always did. I ran. I ran all the way to the school track and just kept running until the sun started to set. Then, everything went sideways. As I turned a corner to head home, two guys in black suits jumped out of a dark van and shoved me inside. What are you doing? Let me go. My dad has money. They didn't care. They just laughed as the van sped off. I was terrified. They drove me to a warehouse, empty. Cold, silent. One of them handed me a small box and an address on a folded paper. Deliver this, he said. 1 hour, or you'll never run again, unless it's in a hospital hallway. I didn't even understand what was happening, but they shoved me outside with a bike and told me to go. So I did. I pedaled like my life depended on it, because IT probably did. Halfway through the city, I noticed something weird. A black SUV, one I'd seen before, was tailing me, fast. I swerved down alleyways, ditched the bike, and ran. That's what I'm good at, right? Eventually, I made it to the address, totally out of breath. A man opened the door. I shoved the box at him. This almost got me killed. He didn't say much, just gave me a thick envelope full of cash and said, "The boss wants to meet you." I wanted to say no, but something about the way he looked at me made my legs move on their own. I followed him, and then I saw someone sitting in the next room. My heart stopped. It was Uncle Max, alive. How what? You're supposed to be dead. He looked tired. Eli, I had to disappear. Your father. He always hated what I did. If he found out, he would have sent me to prison. I faked the fire. I had to. I was shaking. You lied to me. To him. I'm sorry, but now I need you. You're fast. You're clean. Nobody suspects you. Work with me, and I'll make sure you never struggle a day in your life. I left in a daze. My head was spinning. Max, my uncle, was part of some underground network, and now he wanted me to be a part of it? I thought about saying no, but then came the next job. This time, I wasn't delivering a package. I was supposed to help someone escape, but when we got to the house, the man we were helping was tied up. He looked terrified. When he broke free and started running, the other guys looked at me and said, "Catch him, or we'll break your legs." So I chased. I didn't want to, but I did, because I was scared. I caught the man, tackled him, and dragged him back. He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. He'll use you too, just like he used me. Don't trust Max. He's dangerous. I didn't say anything, but his words stayed in my mind. Later, Max gave me another wad of money. You did good, he said. Welcome to the team. But I didn't feel good, and it only got worse. A few nights later, I had another package, heavy. Something felt off. Then, just as I was heading to drop it off, the same black SUV came flying toward me again. The door opened. Someone grabbed the package. I fought back. We both fell. When I looked at the guy's face, I froze. It was my dad. You've been following me? He nodded. I'm not just your father, Eli. I'm an undercover agent. I've been trying to bring Max down for years. He's a top-level smuggler. And now, you're part of it. I backed away. You could have told me. I didn't want you in danger, but it's too late now. That package, it's full of stolen diamonds. We need to stop him together. So we made a plan. When I showed up at the delivery house, I held the package like before. The guy came out. But this time, police sirens screamed through the air. Cars surrounded us. The man was arrested. I was taken too, but not for long. In jail, Dad visited me. I told them you were undercover. He said, helping me? You just saved lives. Tears filled my eyes. For the first time in my life, my dad had my back. Uncle Max? He was arrested later that week. And me? I went back to school. Back to the track team. Back to the life I almost lost. It turns out, running did save me. Not just from trouble, but from becoming someone I never wanted to be. It wasn't supposed to go down like this, but then, again, things rarely go how you plan when you're staring down the barrel of desperation. I didn't steal $100 million for the thrill, or to live like some kingpin in a penthouse. I did it because my best friend was going to die. His name was Zane. We grew up in the same half-lit alleyways, dodging busted streetlights and broken promises. If anyone was more like a brother than a friend, it was him. Zane was always the kind of guy who'd hand you his last meal and joke about being on a new diet. We survived everything together. Foster homes, gang threats, sleeping in abandoned train cars when shelters turned us away. So when Zane got diagnosed with late-stage leukemia, and the best shot he had was an experimental treatment from a private institute in Zurich that cost $3.8 million, I knew I had to do something. Anything. But here's the thing. I didn't have $3 million. Hell, I didn't have $30 to my name. I was coding gigs for sketchy startups, building firewalls in basements, and dodging student loan officers like it was a sport. Then one night, I got a ping, a backdoor vulnerability in a defense contractor's blockchain payment system. My fingers paused on the keyboard. I stared at the code like it had teeth. It was like seeing a ghost. One line of flawed code, and suddenly, I saw a way in. That's when the plan began. I looped in two people I trusted with my life. Kale, a systems dev who used to run ransomware for sport, and Aisha, who'd once spoofed an entire airline's booking system just to reroute a flight so she wouldn't miss her sister's wedding. They didn't even hesitate. When I told them it was for Zane, they just asked, how much do we need? We didn't go small. That would have been suspicious. We went for the jugular. 100 million siphoned in microtransactions over 6 hours from various shadow accounts connected to dirty defense contracts and offshore holdings. No real victims, just crooks robbing crooks. We didn't feel like criminals. We felt like modern-day Robin Hoods. But you know what they say? No good deed goes unpunished. At 4:13 a.m., just as Aisha was encrypting the last layer of reroutes, the red alert hit. Someone tripped the trace. A ripple surged through our network. A digital bloodhound had caught our scent. Shut it down. Kill all access, I hissed. I can't. Someone's in the loop. Internal system just went active, Kale shouted, his voice tighter than I'd ever heard. Clean the logs. Wipe the sandbox. Too late. Within minutes, black SUVs were already pulling into Zane Street. I was watching on live feed from our hideout 2 blocks away. They're not going for us, Aisha whispered. No, I muttered. They're going for him. We had hours, maybe less. I couldn't let Zane pay for what I did. He didn't even know. We hadn't told him. How could I say, hey buddy, I just committed federal wire fraud for you. Hope you live long enough to use it? So I made a call to Agent Declan Merrick. Yeah, that guy. The cybercrime unit's worst nightmare. I dodged his digital snare once in 2022, and he'd been after me since. I know you're listening, I said into the burner. I'll give you back the money, every damn cent, but you leave Zane alone. He's not part of this. Silence. Then a single response. 10 hours. I hung up. We didn't have 10 hours. We barely had 6. I threw the rest of the team into overdrive. Kale built a timed auto-return script. Aisha loaded a false trail pointing to 3 dummy shell companies in the Caymans. I left behind a handwritten confession sealed in a titanium USB with a sticky note that read, "Don't trust anyone but Zane." At 7:04 a.m., the money was gone. Reversed, rerouted, and redacted from every traceable node. I even took a crypto loss of $2.6 million during transfer bleed just to speed it up. It didn't matter. I wasn't doing this to get rich. But guess what? They came anyway. Not just for me, for all of us. We split. Kyle fled to Guatemala with a false identity and a stack of bearer bonds. Isha vanished off-grid with nothing but a solar-powered laptop and a burner phone. And me? I stayed. They found me 2 days later in a warehouse near the old dockyards, watching a grainy screen that showed Zane laughing on a hospital bed. He'd made it to Zurich. Someone anonymously paid for the entire treatment in full. I wonder who. They didn't even cuff me. Merrick just stood there, staring at me like he couldn't figure me out. Why? He finally asked. I looked up at him. Because he's the only family I've got. They offered me a deal. 15 years, reduced to 7 if I cooperated. I didn't flinch. I'd already done the hardest thing I'd ever do. Everything after that was just noise. Sometimes I dream about that night, about the terminal blinking green, about Zane's voice cracking when I told him goodbye. Was it worth it? Every damn bit. Zane sends letters every month. He's recovering. Studying, wants to be a doctor now, says he owes it to someone who believed his life was worth $100 million. But me? I sit in this cell every night and remind myself that I'm not a criminal. I'm a friend, and sometimes, just sometimes, that means breaking every law you swore you never would, for the people who saved you first. We'd been living deep in the marshy heart of the Congo Basin for about 6 months now. Me, my dad, and my mom. Both of them are conservation biologists studying the migration patterns of forest elephants. Sounds noble, right? Except their research was a little, let's say, unconventional. Most of their attention wasn't on the animals, but I kid you not, their dung. Jasper, come take a look at this specimen. Fresh and fibrous, Mom called out one morning. Elbow deep in elephant poop like it was a diamond mine. I'm good, Mom. Maybe after breakfast, I replied, trying to keep my last meal down. While they were collecting samples and tracking digestion patterns, gross, I had my sights set on something way cooler. The emerald phantom, a mythical beetle species said to shimmer like polished gems and move like shadows. Locals say spotting it brings lifelong luck. I say it's the closest thing to a real-life Pokemon. To get closer to it, I trained myself to move silently in the wild. No boots, no rustling, barefoot like a ninja with a magnifying glass. I even got so good at it, I once stood frozen for 15 whole minutes because I thought I spotted a green blur near a mangrove root. Freeze, Cobra! I hissed one time, paralyzed in fear. Jasper, my mom squinted at me. That's a twig. You really need to wear your glasses. Yeah, I had a slight issue with forgetting those, frequently. Anyway, the days were adventurous and a little bizarre, but the nights, that's when the stories came out. Terrifying ones. Especially about a creature they called Mvuvi Wadamu, translated loosely to the Blood Fisher. According to old hunters, it was a man once, red-haired, sharp-eyed, but he'd tasted human flesh and now wandered the forest, possessed with strength equal to an entire platoon. Some said over 80 men. Sometimes I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart racing from dreams of that demon calling my name, dragging my parents away. I knew it wasn't real, at least I hoped it wasn't. Then came Blaze. He showed up like a scene from a movie, driving a matte black Jeep that looked like it had survived 3 wars. In just 20 minutes, he set up a camp that looked more like a luxury pop-up hotel. Solar panels, filtered water showers, and some kind of robotic drone that followed him around. Jasper, you gotta check out this guy's setup, Dad said, beaming. I'm trying. I squinted. Kinda hard without my glasses. Blaze came over that evening, tipping his wide-brimmed explorer's hat. He was tall, muscular, and wore thick glasses that looked uncannily similar to mine. We nearsighted gotta stick together, he joked, flashing a grin. My parents invited him for dinner, and he accepted, but oddly, he didn't touch any of our food. Strict diet, he said, tossing together some kind of herbal stew from a jar I swear was labeled in Russian. Y'all eat like this every day? No wonder you're fit, he said, giving me an odd look like he was calculating our protein content or something. But the weirdest part came when the wind knocked off his hat, his hair. It was flaming red, like the legends. My stomach twisted. Could Blaze be the Blood Fisher? He refused our food, asked about our diet, and seemed a little too curious about our whereabouts. But surely, this was paranoia, right? That night, as he laughed with my parents, I couldn't stop staring at his teeth. Were his canines sharper than normal? Or was I now thinking about vampires? Anyway, I blurted it out. Cannibal. Silence. Then everyone burst out laughing. Oh, Jasper, Dad chuckled. Next, you'll tell us he's a werewolf too. Blaze didn't seem offended. In fact, He laughed the hardest, but something in his eyes, it lingered. The next morning, Blaze greeted me with a morning champ and a weirdly cheerful breakfast plate. Kid special just for you. I was almost 15, not 5, and kid special sounded sketchy. Later, he casually mentioned, "So I hear you're looking for that Emerald Phantom beetle. Bit of a fairy tale, no?" I hated him instantly again. Who was he to say what was real or not? Unfortunately, my parents loved him. Since Blaze claimed he was studying elephants too, he officially joined our little team. That's when everything got worse. Suddenly, Blaze was doing everything, helping Mom catalog samples, laughing with Dad over jungle jokes, repairing the generator before I could even get a wrench. I felt like a background character in my own family. Even my warnings fell on deaf ears. Once, Blaze led us into a swamp to find some rare burrowing spider. I warned Dad, "Careful. There might be snakes or crocs here." "Don't worry, Jasper," Blaze said with a grin. "When I was your age, I was 45. What did that even mean? He went on and on with macho jungle tales, like how he once fought off a crocodile using only a mango and a spoon. And afterward, he boasted, they started calling crocs blazodiles. I wanted to roll my eyes so hard they'd fall out. I had to do something smart. I decided to spy on Blaze. That night, I used my ninja skills and crept into his tent. Inside, I found gear way too advanced for a regular scientist. High-caliber binoculars, motion sensors, animal tranquilizers, and, most importantly, a high-powered hunting rifle. Before I could even freak out properly, I heard him coming. I dove behind a sleeping bag, barely breathing. He entered and casually cleaned his glasses. He was right there, less than a foot away. Just then, Dad called from outside. Blaze turned to leave, but stepped on something. A crunch. My heart stopped. My foot had just broken his glasses. The next day at breakfast, he acted normal. But his gaze, it sliced through me. "Morning, Jasper. Did you sleep well?" I knew he knew. Later that night, I tried to tell my parents. He's not who he says he is. I found a rifle in his tent. He's a hunter, probably after the elephants. "Jasper, come on," Mom said, clearly annoyed. "He probably carries it for protection. And why would a scientist have night vision goggles, huh? Enough. You're jealous because he's getting along with us, that's all?" I couldn't believe it. They didn't trust me. Things got worse when Mom suddenly fell terribly ill. Some jungle virus, super rare and super fast acting. Within hours, she was unconscious. I remembered a tale about the loba flower, used by locals as a cure. Dad and I rushed into the forest. While hunting for the flower, I saw something else, a shimmering green flash near a cluster of bioluminescent petals. Could it be? When we got back with the flower, Mom recovered just in time, but I couldn't shake off what I saw, that green flash. It had to be the Emerald Phantom. That evening, as we sat around the fire, Blaze leaned closer. "You know, Jasper, I've been thinking. I lost my glasses recently. Broke them, actually. Think you might know something about that?" He pulled a gun from his side. My blood turned cold. "I can't exactly drive back to camp without them," he smiled. "So I'll need your dad to come with me." Everything clicked. Blaze wasn't a scientist. He was a poacher, a hunter disguised as one of us. And he knew I knew. I looked at my dad. He nodded slightly. Then everything happened fast. Dad lunged. I kicked sand in Blaze's eyes, and somehow we wrestled the gun away. He fled into the jungle, howling like a madman. The authorities later told us Blaze had been flagged across several wildlife reserves. His real name? Kieran Maddox. Wanted in 3 countries for trafficking endangered species. We packed up the next day. My mom, finally healthy. My dad, proud. And me? I kept my glasses strapped on. But before we left, I made one last trip back to that glowing flower. And there, crawling beneath its petals, glinting like emerald fire, I found it. The Emerald Phantom. Turns out, I wasn't just pretending to be a nerd. I was a hunter all along. Only not for elephants. For truth. For beetles. And yeah, for adventure.